Toya Smith, aka Black Socrates. All I ask is that you think.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Montoya Smith, aka Black Socrates, and welcome to the Just My 3 Cents podcast. This is a special edition pop-up show. We're actually using it to advertise tomorrow's Mental Dialogue live experience. I have a special guest, a very special guest, brother by the name of Papi Picasso. Should have, if you've been following, if you follow our page, you've been seeing me advertise. Good brother all week. Looking forward to tomorrow's live experience. For those who are in the Atlanta area, we are back with our live experience. We've been doing a lot of Zooms over the last couple of years since the pandemic, so we are happy to be live in 3D. Thank you, brother, for coming on with me. We're just really going to do a little promo and send it out because we're in the middle of the day, so we don't even, most people are probably working. So we're just going to get the promo done and send it out and try to pull as many people as we can tomorrow. But thank you for being with me, King.
Peace, beloved. How you doing, bro?
Man, doing awesome, man. Doing awesome. Just looking forward to tomorrow's event. For those who don't know, Papi Picasso is well renowned in these spoken word streets, if you will. He does a lot of things, but I'm gonna let this brother kind of just introduce himself before we get specifically into why I wanted to introduce Papi to you. Again, as I've already said, he's a world-renowned spoken word artist amongst many things. But anything else that you want to share as we get into promoting for tomorrow's live experience? But thank you for coming on with me, King.
Oh, very welcome, sir. First of all, I would say thank you for having me, and humble thanks for that great introduction. My name is Mario Reyes. My stage name is Papi Picasso. I'm a spoken word poet, spoken word artist. I've been performing in Atlanta for the past 7 years. The moniker came when I moved down to Atlanta. I didn't give it to myself. You can't give yourself a nickname that's stupid. Aside from that, I'm a veteran of the military, originally from the Bronx, New York, and very proud to say, as of late, I don't focus so much on my bio and my past accomplishments. I'm living in now heavy. So right now, it's very purposeful work that I'm doing. My wife and I, we created a nonprofit organization called Manifest Destiny. Through that, we bring art to underserved communities, not just art in the traditional sense, but we teach the kids about poetry, how to integrate poetry into their lives and control their identity narratives, so that way they're able to tell themselves a healthy story about themselves, along with art therapy that my wife handles. She's a world-renowned artist herself, and she's does like mommy daughter sipping paints, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just real healthy, and we're just leaning into our purpose now more than ever.
No, I love that concept. You're living in the now, and like I said, not just living off of what you've done, even though again those things are amazing. And I met this brother. Well, I don't know, I met you before this, but I'll highlight one thing that was kind of cool. We just ended up happening to be on the same event. I was moderating a Know Your Rights event over at Georgia Tech, and you were the poet that just murdered and killed. And I've seen you kill many of stages, but that was one time where we linked up. And at the time, I don't know if you really knew of me. We just kind of said what's up. Yeah. You had seen me several times, but you didn't necessarily know me. But as I told you, I've been tracking you for a long time, and glad to kind of, in a sense, bring you to the Mental Dialogue Community Club. For those out there listening who may not be aware of what that is, but basically, the Mental Dialogue Community Club is basically a nationwide virtual neighborhood where African Americans learn to trade ideas, goods, and services through intentional fellowships such as the live experience, which we're having tomorrow at Urban Grind. If you're in Atlanta, it's another known coffee shop. Absolutely. Go ahead, brother.
Go be popping. I'm here for it. I'm actually looking really forward to tomorrow. I feel like living, like I said, like who I am now has evolved. So like every year I write a period piece, right?
Okay.
That's sort of like my flag in the sand to say where I'm at now.
Oh, dope.
I could track my growth. So if I'm talking about the same thing I talked about before, then I realized I may need to find some closure or nurture it a little bit more. So as I started writing my period piece for this year, I found myself constantly sourcing the hurt, the mess, you know what I mean, the mud. But my day to day, it doesn't even come up.
Right.
So I really had a aha moment in which I've put in enough work that I don't have to talk about why my jersey's in the rafters anymore. I gotta be what's the word I'm looking for? I gotta be gracious with myself enough to write a happy poem, and a poem that acknowledges, that doesn't have to track the growth. I could just speak on being grown.
Dope.
You feel me?
Dope.
So that's why I'm really looking forward to tomorrow, because tomorrow, I'm gonna give people some of that work, and we're gonna talk about it. But when we talk about, self-care and what that means for a man, I think a lot of times we fail to just be in the grown state. We always got to justify it as if these sacrifices it might have made you the man that you are, but those sacrifices don't necessarily have to make you a man. And you don't have to live in those glory days of pain and anguish and, trauma. Like,
Yeah, that's real. That's real. Matter of fact, let me just jump it off for anybody who catches this broadcast to make it real clear. Tomorrow's Mental Dialogue Live experience, the conversation is Black fathers are needed, period. Black
Amen.
fathers are needed, period. And speaking of what you just spoke about, I was planning on bringing this to the broadcast, and it fits so properly. This brother has an amazing book. I'm going through it right now, loving every bit of it. I have not been fortunate enough to have my own seeds yet, but I think I have a full advantage point compared to those who didn't read this book prior to having a son. So obviously you have children right now, and obviously we could talk about your intention in writing this book, which is an amazing book. It's called A Son with No Father is a Book with No Author. And if I could point out one thing before you even tell us anything about the book, one thing that I wanted to point out, and we'll do some of this tomorrow as well, is I'm going to take passages where you'll share poetry and we'll discuss some of your poems in reference to Black fathers are needed. We're also going to take pieces out of this book and talk about those as well. And one thing I would love to highlight based on what you just said is you put this as a quote for one of your chapters that says, getting old is mandatory. Growing up is optional. I love that.
Right. I know a lot of grown babies, living their second, third, fourth childhood. I remember I'm a Nas fan, so he has a song called Second Childhood on the Stillmatic album.
Right.
And I might have been in my 20s when that album came out. And I thought I understood it then. Now, add another 20 years of life, do I understand it so much more? And I'm not casting judgment on anybody that chooses, if that's where you want to stay in life, cool. But physically, you can stay there. Mentally, if you're subscribing to the same ideologies you did at 42, that you did at 22, that you did at 12, you're not exposing yourself to enough.
And let me jump in, if you don't mind, again, just to bring it home to the specific, to the topic. So when we say Black fathers are needed, period, one of the issues is what you're talking about now. And I term that as, for the hip hop generation. I'm the same age as, I always highlight this, I'm the same age as hip hop. I'm 48, about to be turning 49. And so as a baby, a true baby of the hip hop generation, the reality is when we start bringing this to fatherhood and families, a part of the issue that we are experiencing is the extended adolescence is stunning us moving into the fatherhood role properly. Some of us might be having babies, but the extended adolescence is not including the responsibility of what fatherhood and manhood is traditionally meant. And that's going to be the conversation, using Papi's amazing poetry, using passages from this amazing book. That's going to get us into the dialogue of, one, as I'm speaking now, understanding it from our viewpoint as men, if you will. And then eventually we're going to have to get into culturally how we see the place of the man as well, because that's under attack, if you ask me, within the current culture. But you could jump in on that as any
I'm
way
like,
you
you can
will.
see the shirt. It says masculinity is not a dirty word.
Exactly.
So that right there is my call to arms. Like, I'm not sitting out here being ashamed to be a man. I'm not apologizing for not using pronouns. That's, if that's your lane, so be it. That's not mine. So respect my lane the same way I respect yours. I'm not going to apologize for being assertive. I'm not going to apologize for being strong. Like, everybody, like, I feel like a lot of times, like, when you talk about like the vilification of man, everybody wants to everybody's scared of what a man could accomplish until they need him to accomplish it. You understand?
Oh, absolutely.
And to your point, what you was just talking about as far as extended adolescence affecting manhood, the when you open up the book, there's a poem in the sleeve.
Absolutely.
And the poem starts off with, you don't have to be a father to be a man, but you damn sure have to be a man to be a dad. And that being said, I think one of the things that really that I really hang my hat on and who I am is that my character is more important than the accomplishments. So when we talk about, you know, I'm letting go of the past, I'm not going to talk about that no more. It's not for me to talk about anymore. My character shows enough. My character wasn't just born from the ether. It had to go through whatever it did. And I remember I wrote a poem a long time ago that says, man, that's a word thrown around loosely without being properly defined. Man, in the face of adversity, defies. Man, in the face of love, confides. Man, in the face of hardship, survives. Man, in the face of his family, provides. So don't you dare call that boy a man until all of his actions comply. You know what I'm saying? And the reality is, a lot of times we don't know what it is, what makes a male a man. But yet you want to give him a child and assume that all of a sudden this male is going to teach this boy to become a man when he hasn't been able to do that for himself. Exactly. And if there's one word that I believe highlights what manhood is about, it's just about accountability.
Accountability. I already knew that's where you were going.
You're not responsible, but you're accountable. Like, if you are born under duress in an environment that is not healthy, you're not responsible for that, but you're going to be accountable for that. And I believe, like, when we start talking about kings amongst men will see responsibilities that aren't their own and will assume accountability and will nurture that and will help heal whatever else is somebody else's neglect has manifested. So one of the jewels I drop on my son often, like my son think I'm like full of like one-liners.
I could dig it.
He's like, yo, you got mad slogans, Dad. And one of them is a jewel that I got while I was in the Air Force. This old OG came and he said, you're a thermostat, not a thermometer. That's what I like about you. Like, what you mean? He goes, you know, how many times have we heard from rappers and other people, yo, I'm just a product of my environment.
Oh, wow.
About responsibility versus accountability, right?
Right.
So you're telling me that you have, because you were subjected to X, Y, and Z, the byproduct is a no-brainer. Cool. That's your out. That's your out. For me, I don't accept that. I said, for that person's a thermometer.
Right.
That person can only tell you the temperature of the environment that they're in. I'm a thermostat. I control the temperature of where I'm at. Every time I go someplace, I start connecting and building communities. Every time I go someplace, I like the juxtaposition of things. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I'll move into a gentrified area, buy a crib. and chop it up and open up my doors and build with the shorties that are there. And then I'll bring in the more well-to-do colonizers that seem to have invaded and bring them in and let them know, like, listen, don't be scared of this child. This child has done nothing wrong to you. Like, understand you're living in their habitat. You know, when I was in Baltimore, that was a issue. Like, this young lady, she had a dog, and the dog almost bit this kid's face, and the kid was like 8 years old. I had to run down on her. I was like, yo, don't you ever do that. And she was like, I was scared. You're scared of an 8-year-old. You sound crazy. So instead of just scolding her or enabling him, I would throw cookouts in the back of my patio and just let them mingle together. And then she started a community garden, and the kids from the community became a part of that garden. And then
so again,
it was those
a real life example.
Saw a lane for escalation and higher growth, both mentally and financially and educationally, because now they had access to our resources and everybody's not staying in their silo, which usually happens.
Right. And that's what we're beautiful at with the Mental Dialogue Community Club, if I could just throw that out. And I want to highlight, if anybody that's watching or listening to you, is that if you can just understand, because I hear us building just in this conversation. So if you can imagine, that's what you're going to experience tomorrow at the club.
Tomorrow's going to be. And the reason why I say tomorrow's going to be wild different is because tomorrow you can only hear right now. Like, you're watching, I'm just another face in a pool full of a lot of them. But when you're face to face with somebody, there's an exchange of energy. It's sincere. Absolutely. You know, you're going to get goosebumps. You're going to feel like, oh, I'm not sure if I should be scared or excited. I don't know if I should laugh or cry. Maybe both.
And what I really want to highlight with that is we're inviting you to bring your teenage sons and daughters.
Right, please.
They need to experience this type of dialogue, because what's going to happen is what you should have gathered in this time of this brother Mario Reyes, aka Papi Picasso. What you should have gathered in this moment is how men actually talk. If you're worried about whether your son or daughter has seen enough of that, tomorrow will be full of that, and we will have conversations where you can pick up seeds that can progress your own home. And so it won't be just coming to tomorrow. This will spread past tomorrow. Come take part. 7 p.m. Urban Grind, 962 North Marietta Street. Urban Grind, Black-owned coffee shop. That's the only way we do it. We're going to have this amazing brother break down. We're going to break down his poetry. I want to see how you receive us getting what we get out of your poem without you telling us. You know, we don't just say, what did you think of this? We're going to tell you what we think from your poems, if you will. And
I love that. I'm looking forward to hearing
how we receive what you
how y'all decipher it versus how I might have intended it.
Exactly.
You know, a lot of times, you know, we we put something out in the world, not realizing the world's going to consume it a different way.
And that's what a learning will take place, and the dialogue about Black Fathers Needed will naturally come out of that conversation. But if you don't mind, brother, I'm putting you on the spot. If you could just hit us with a piece, because I want to highlight after he does this piece, we're spending 2 days on this conversation just to highlight that. We got the live experience tomorrow. Saturday morning is the Mental Dialogue live experience for those who know about, Saturday morning is the Mental Dialogue talk show. Let me get the distinction right, which we do every Saturday morning, and we're doing Are Black Fathers Disregarded in Society? I'm bringing on therapist Dr. Gerald Hassel, as well as Donald Atchison, a karate master teacher out of California. And we're going to have a dialogue about how Black men are regarded in society. So tomorrow is Black Fathers Are Needed, period, featuring this brother, Papi Picasso. Saturday is the Mental Dialogue talk show. But with that said, if you don't mind, Papi, leave them just a little taste of where we're going to go tomorrow.
Now I'm thinking about what route I want to go down. Because we talked about a lot. I don't know. I could go mastermind and speak about, just...
well, just keep in mind, Black Fathers Are Needed. So if that can kind of tune you into an area, because what they're not going to get to do on here is continue talking about it. They're going to have to come to the live experience to talk about whatever you say. You feel me? So if you can tune in, I know you got a lot of spots to go, but if you can pull something off.
Let me think.
I know I put you on the spot. I didn't even prepare you for that.
All right, how about this? I'm gonna give you the title poem of the book.
Okay, love it.
Hey, yo, A Son with No Father is a book with no author. A main character that's developed by his peers and his barber. Lost in the pages, wondering if his features reflect that of the artist, but he can't tell because tears blurry his vision that chased his birthday cake when he just needed to be watered. A son with no father is a plant with no light, a seed trying desperately to bud with all of its might, hoping to bloom in spite of the gloom that he faces every night when he just needed you there, king, to read him a sweet lullaby. A son with no father is a player with no coach, a slave with no hope, a burning desire for freedom, but the longing for his dad only keeps him dangling from that rope when he just needed you there to keep your promises. A son with no father is left with women that eat their young, forced to feed on that boy's masculinity until he think he one of them. Lost in pop culture, trying to discover his identity with no place to learn it from when he just needed you there, king, to set the example. You see, he needed that balance. Oh, that boy deserves both of his parents. He did nothing to deserve being abandoned and would rather walk in his father's shadow. But in the man's absence, it's the little boy that has to be the one to cast it. His imagination holds the graphic of the perfect dad captured, a slave to an image that will never be mastered. There is no hand to craft it. There is no magic in rabbits. There's no one to show him how to hold the bat at baseball practice. Now remember, young man, keep your back elbow up. Don't crowd the plate and never take your eye off the ball. There's no one to show him how to throw his hands so he doesn't get his narrow ass kicked. Remember, king, always keep your guard up. You tuck your chin and you punch across the middle. There's no one to point out a good woman or the definition of what a good asset is. Now remember, I would like to take a walk with you one day. Mommy can try her very best, but she can't be all the things that this man is. No one to share an adventure and all things that are man-ish. Now her role is just as important to provide him with balance and order. But a son with no father is haunted by the thoughts of being fostered, hoping that he could protect his future son and daughter from all of the lessons that your absence taught him. Have you ever tried to read a book that's missing an introduction? No preface to prepare that youngin' for what's coming? Yet the numbing effects of your absence creates a heartless dummy that walks around town with that 4 pound and finds everything funny. Now I don't think you do, money, because you fail to realize a son with no father is much, much more than a book with no author or a boy with no dad. He is the immaculate conception because he birthed himself. I said he is a young God because you just that boy's sperm donor, painfully obvious that you are no man. Now, a son with no father is out here trying to find the words to complete his story in the absence of its author. Thank you, sir.
Love it. We breaking that one down tomorrow. Spit it again. Let's break it down. Let's see where we go with it, because that's the point. Thank you, King. See you tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Bring your youth. Bring the teenagers. We are literally buying them sandwiches. Anybody 19 and under, free sandwiches at the coffee shop. We want. That's how bad we want
come
you to
drink,
bring
come
us.
build. It's gonna be a vibe. It's not. This isn't a lecture. It's a conversation. I want to hear what they have to say.
That's what it's going to be. I just love the opportunity to do it with a brother like this. Thank you, King, for your time. See you tomorrow, live in 3D. Saturday morning, if you're nationwide, you can catch us on Saturday. Similar conversation. I'll actually bring this poem to the show on Saturday so we can break it down on the show too. We're going to really build with these words. Words can save the world. That's why we're using them to build with. Thank you, King. See y'all tomorrow night or Saturday morning. All I ask is that you think. We out.
Peace, y'all.